वेब पे बोलने के समय भी लेना चाहिए टोटल
वो एक्चुअली शायद वाईफाई शायद बीएचयू अभी चल नहीं रहा है। अपने वाले से कनेक्ट करके भी डाउनलोड कर लिया। नहीं, वेट करना है, कराए सर का। Respected listeners, and now Banaras Hindu University, we all welcoming from the Department of Philosophy and Religion and Bhagwan Shreyansnath Jain Studies Fund. Now we are going to organize a lecture over a topic by a respected scholar from outside of our university, and now our respected members have arrived on the dais. I am welcoming all of members, and so now Bhagwan Shreyansnath Jain Studies Fund and the Department of Philosophy and Religion, in their mutual collaboration, a program is being organized. So now first we request to all of our members on the dais to please garland Malveji, Professor A.K. Rai sir, Professor Anand sir, Professor Mukul Raj Mehta, and our speaker, Mr. Sushant Bhattacharya. Garlanding of respected Bharat Ratna Madan Mohan Malveji by our fund and department professors, distinguished scholars. And now I am also requesting for Deepak. Okay, so now I am requesting to welcome our scholar and the chairman of today's lecture, Professor A.K. Rai sir, as well as Mr. Sushant Bhattacharya. So now this is an honor to welcome our speaker, Mr. Sushant Bhattacharya by Professor Mukul Raj Mehta. And now I am requesting to Professor Anand Mishra sir to welcome our chairman and Professor Mukul Raj Mehta giving Angvastram from Bhagwan Shreyansnath Jain Studies Fund and the Department of Philosophy and Religion. Now, a humble request to head of Department of Philosophy and Religion Department to honor our chairman, Professor A.K. Rai sir, former head of Department of Philosophy and Religion, B.H.U. It is a very great moment for us, giving also memento of the Bhagwan Shreyansnath Jain Fund, Studies Fund. And now I am requesting to Professor Anand Mishra sir to give a welcome speech, welcome address for our scholars. Respected Mr. Sir.
Hari Om. Honorable Chairperson Professor A.K. Rai, our Speaker Sushant Bhattacharya, Professor Mukul Mehta, Chairman Bhagwan Shreyansnath Jain Studies Fund B.H.U, Dr. Anand Kumar Jain, Member Secretary Bhagwan Shreyansnath Jain Studies Fund B.H.U, scholars, students, and friends, I welcome you all in this seminar hall. Where a lecture has been organized by Bhagwan Shreyansnath Jain Studies Fund BHU with Department of Philosophy and Religion, Banaras Hindu University. I welcome you all in this lecture. Friends, today our speaker is Sushant Bhattacharya. He is presently pursuing his research at Pedagogical University, Poland. He is working under Professor Marzena, who is a terrific scholar of yoga. He would today speak on a very interesting topic, exploring atheism in theism, Jain and Yogic perspective of divinity. I hope all of you would enjoy the lecture. As you know, that Kumaril Mimamsa Shlok Vartik of Chodna Sutra has refuted the doctrine of omniscience as presented by Buddhism or Jainism. There he also refutes the doctrines of, one can say it is of yoga as well as Vedanta. So I think there lies the connecting link between Jainism, Buddhism, or yoga. All these philosophies or religions are actually based on yogic experience and yogic practice. It will be really very interesting to see how he explores the doctrine of theism or atheism in these systems. I welcome Sushant again in this seminar hall. I also welcome Professor A.K. Rai, who is presently chairing the lecture. We were really fortunate that he is today with us and chairing the lecture. It is his own department. I welcome him in this seminar hall. I also welcome Dr. Rajan, who is presently a faculty at Azim Premji University. I welcome you, Rajan. I welcome all the faculties, Professor Jha, Professor Wagre, Kalpana ji, and other scholars present here. I welcome you all. Thank you.
Now I am again requesting to our chairman of Bhagwan Shreyansnath Jain Studies Fund, Professor Mukul Mehta, to have a few words about our fund. Professor Mehta.
A very good afternoon to everybody. Uh, by now, as you all are aware, that we are having Bhagwan Shreyansnath Jain Studies Fund in Banaras Hindu University, and under that fund, uh, almost regularly we have been organizing some lectures, some programs, some workshop, seminars, and all that. Uh, as you know, there is a provision in that program that we can invite scholars from outside India. We can depute scholars to abroad. When Sushant ji was here and Professor Anand Mishra ji introduced me with Sushant ji, then I requested him, since you are here, so it will be great if you kindly agree to deliver a couple of lectures, somewhere referring Jainism also. So it was so kind of him that he agreed to my request, and now he is here. So, and I was a bit scared that uh, this time we may have a very little number of audience, but I am uh, so happy to see that uh, it's almost more than 50. We are here. So, uh, on very interesting topic, Sushant ji has proposed to speak. So, I would request you all to, after his deliberations, I'll request you all to ask, raise questions. Feel free to ask any question related to the topic. So, on behalf of Bhagwan Shreyansnath Jain Studies Fund, it's so kind of Professor Anandji always that whenever we request Professor Anandji, our head of the department, to organize such programs in collaborations, he is always ready for that. So, thank you, Anandji, also. And now, uh, I am sure in future also we will be organizing such lectures, and you all will be there to cooperate and to attend and participate the lectures. Thank you. Thank you.
We're very thankful to Professor Mehta, sir, for introducing our fund. Now it's time to listen our distinguished scholar of philosophy, Professor Dr. Sushant Bhattacharya, and now his topic is exploring theism in theism, Jain and Yogic perspective of divinity. He is doing research from Pedagogical University of Krakow, Poland, and he is also trained in traditional Raj Yoga meditation technique. And he has a specialization in Sankhya Yoga, Vedanta, and Hindu theology, and given lecture in various platforms. So now I'm requesting to Mr. Sushant Bhattacharya ji to give his lecture over topic. So welcoming Bhattacharya ji, respected Sushant.
Just a minute, let me fix this technical glitch. This is a different. It is not working.
उस साइड को एक बार ट्राई करें, उस साइड खिड़की की तरफ. Sir, what actually? Track नहीं. इस पे ट्राई करें. हाँ, देखो.
So there is a few network connectivity of Wi-Fi. So just wait for a 1-2 minute.
Okay, I don't need this. I'll do this from phone, mobile. Okay. Yeah, you just put it outside.
Did we stop sharing it?
Yeah. No. You start sharing this one. This is another file.
You have to do both simultaneously.
Okay.
You have to scroll it up and down,
Yeah.
and you have to continue with your mobile.
Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay. Technical glitch. It's a great pleasure for me to get the opportunity to talk to you and interact with you and to learn from Professor Mehta, who is a very, very senior, and the HOD who is very kind to host me and to help me in many ways, Professor Anand Mishra ji, and all other faculties, the generous, being generous, and the students. It's a great opportunity for me as a student to interact with the students, which we don't get the chance because we are mostly based in abroad. And I basically work in Poland and in Oxford as well. And so it is really a great opportunity. So I will start my, okay? Yeah, I'll start my this talk with chanting of as we are talking about the Jainism and yoga. अपना सच में से जा मैं तिम भूये सुख पये aham suvijja charanam pamokham arhante sharanam pavachami siddhe saranam pavachami sadhu sharanam pavachami. This is basically a Theravada tradition where you go to the Theravada tradition, they will chant these mantras and start their classes. So today, I want to take you to an interesting topic that you can see from the title, that exploring atheism and theism, Jain and Yogic perspective of divinity. But we need to unpack this title where I use the atheism and theism in which concept. But basically, we know that Jainism is atheist. So why you are saying this atheism and theism? Where is this theism? So here I understand or I describe theism and atheism in the sense, theism in the sense of believing in divinity, or we would say godliness, goodness, and atheism basically what it means that it does not believe in the existence of a creator God. The God is not the creator, the preserver, or the destroyer that we generally acquainted with our Hindu tradition, this Trimurti. So the atheism in theism, so this theism is basically not believing in the existence of a creator God, but believing in God as goodness, as divinity, as a role model where you can go, the human beings can go up to that level of the divinity, where you can somehow equate yourself with this goodness of God or the godliness or the divinity. So this is about the title. Now, during discussion, we will divide this into three phases. First of all, I talk about the concept of God. Basically, this is a kind of God for the argument for the existence of God or against the existence of God. So we'll be discussing about what are the arguments for the existence of God, not who is a God. And then we will come to this sophisticated idea of this Jain concept of God. Then we'll come to the yogi concept. Then we will try to discuss, analyze these two different unique understandings of God and what are the sophisticated ideas we can have or which can contribute in this theological discussion of God. So philosophy has long engaged in discussion over the idea of God. So it is an age-old idea and a concept which people still today talking, thinking, analyzing about it. Atheism, which denies the presence of a creator God, and theism, which affirms the existence of a creator God, are the two main camps in the discussion. So there are two groups for this existence of God. One says, no, there is no God, God does not exist. One group says, no, God does exist. So who claims that God exists? They give their arguments for the existence of the God, what we call in the Western philosophy, the arguments for the existence of God. And those who do not believe in the existence of a God, they give their arguments, which are known as the arguments against the existence of God. The fact that the Jains and Yogis reject the Creator God, however, is surprising, given that they recognize God as a perfect, highest divine entity. The Jains and Yogis are more concerned with God as a divine entity than they are with the status of a God with omni attributes. You know, in the Western theology, and Western philosophy also, we talk about these omni attributes, the omnipotent, omniscient, omnipowerful, omnibenevolent. So omni is a Latin term which means all. So omnipotent is all powerful. Omniscient is all knowing. So wherever you find this omni, you should understand as all. So it is against this omni attributes. And they have faith in a God who does not separate himself from his creation, but rather helps humans acquire these divine qualities. So God is not the creator of this universe, rather, God is the symbol of goodness or godliness, which you can incorporate in yourself or which you can adopt and you can become God itself as. Because in Jainism, we talk about Godhead, the Tirthankaras. So what would be my argument? It is not something original, but I want to discuss it. I would like to argue that the way classical yoga philosophy and Jain philosophy deal with the idea of God may offer some interesting perspective for rethinking the problem of God in contemporary discussions of the issue. I would like to argue that the yogic notion of God is peculiar, even eccentric, not only in terms of Indian thought, but rather in terms of any of the conventional conceptualizations regarding God. So this is not specific only for the Indian, even this is for the Western thought. This unique idea of God is really, really very rare. You won't find it, even if you study theology. Now let's come to the topic, the main entrance. God in philosophy. But here we are talking about the existence for and against the arguments. So the argument for the existence of God, I will sum up. This is like a semester course, a topic, but I will try to somehow summarize as quick as possible. So arguments, basically, there are main 5 arguments for the existence of God. One is the ontological. So it is possible to imagine a perfect being. Such a being could not be perfect unless its essence included existence. Therefore, a perfect being must exist. So there's objections also. You cannot define or imagine a thing into existence. Existence is a different thing. Then this is the causal arguments. Everything must have a cause. It is impossible to continue backwards to infinity without causes. Therefore, there must have been a first cause, which was not conditioned by any other cause. That cause must be the God. Objections. If you allow one thing to exist without cause, you contradict your own premise. And if you do, there is no reason why the universe should not be the one thing that exists and originates without cause. Then this is a very famous and popular argument that is called the design arguments. Animals, plants, planets show clear signs of being designed for specific ends. You remember this Paley is the watch and the watchmaker argument. Therefore, there must have been a designer. If there is a design, there must be a designer. Objection. The principle of self-organization and evolution provide complete explanation for apparent design. So that there is a design, that doesn't mean that there has to be a designer. It may be an eternal coming from the very beginning, as the Jainas says, that the existence was not created. It is eternal. Then a modern design argument. Okay, I'll skip this. This is the same thing. Then experiential arguments. This a very large number of people claim to have personal religious experiences of God. So because this is the mysticism, the mystics claim that they have actually seen or experienced God, like the Ramakrishna, Meister Eckhart in the Christian theology. So how is it possible to deny their claims that they have experienced or they have seen God? So this is another argument. Now this is the pragmatic. Okay, we'll leave. We don't have time. So arguments against the existence of God. Here is the crux. These arguments against the God does not apply in this sophisticated and nuanced understanding of God in Jaina and Yoga. That's what is the main thing, what I want to highlight here. So the first argument, which is very, very important, and you all know the Western philosophy, this is called the problem of evil. Because evil exists, God cannot be all powerful, all knowing, and loving, and God at the same time. So as the evil exists, so it means, it suggests that there is no God. Because if a God is all loving, then how does he allow evil to take place? He should stop it. So he doesn't stop it. So that means that God does not exist. Then this argument is from pain. Because God allows pain, disease, natural disasters to exist, he cannot be all powerful and also loving and good in the human sense of these words. So if a 5-year child is bitten by a snake and he is suffering, but the God is not helping and he dies, so how could he say that God is benevolent? He is all loving. The child is suffering. So where is God? So that means they claim that God does not exist. Then the argument is from injustice. Destinies are not allocated on the basis of merit or quality. They are allocated either arbitrarily or on the principle of to him who has shall be given, and from he who has not not be shall be taken even that which he has. So he finds that God cannot be all powerful and all knowing, and also just in the human sense of the word. Multiplicity. Since the gods of various religions differ widely in their characteristics, only one of these religions or none can be right about God. So different religions have a different understanding, different interpretation, different idea of God. So how is it possible that all these religions are talking about God, but they have a different understanding of God? So if God is the one, then the experience should be the one, the same, similar. But the Christians see God as Jesus, but the Hindu sees God as the Shiva. But they have a different characteristics, different orientation. So how is it possible? Simplicity. Since God is invisible and the universe is no different than if he did not exist, it is simpler to assume he does not exist. None of this criticism applied to the God of pantheism, which is identical with the universe and the nature. So these are the basic arguments for and against, but we will mainly focus on the against arguments. Now, let's come to the topic of this Jainism, how the Jainism describes God or the nature of God. What is their understanding? According to Jainism, the universe and all its constituent parts or beings are eternal. So it is eternal. With regard to time, it has no beginning or conclusion. The universe is guided by its own set of cosmic laws. So no one has set these laws like this designer argument. There is the designer, someone has designed it. So Jainas are saying that there is no these laws, nobody has made these laws. These laws are eternal, as the existence is eternal. All chemical continuously alter. The universe is guided by its own set of cosmic laws. All chemicals continuously alter or change their shapes. In the universe, nothing can be created or destroyed. The cosmos can exist without someone having to create it or run its affairs. Jainism rejects the idea that God created, preserved, and ultimately destroyed the cosmos. Jainism does, however, hold a belief in God. Here is the twist, the sophistication, nuance. Although one who is flawless rather than a maker. So God is not the maker, rather God is the flawless, the apex of the divinity. A person becomes a liberated soul once all of his karmas have been destroyed. He spends all of his time in moksha, in an ideal state of joy. The freed soul, the liberated soul, has infinite wisdom, infinite insight, infinite strength, and boundless joy. The God of the Jain religion is this living thing. So he's not separate. He doesn't live in another sphere or another place. He he is here and he is instrumental, and you can have this godly or this divine qualities, and you can incorporate in yourself. Every living thing possesses the capacity to become God. As a result, Jains do not worship a single deity. Rather, they worship an infinite number of deities who grow in number as more living things achieve liberation. This whole thing that everything, this is soul, has been tethered to karma since the beginning of time and is unaware of its actual nature due to misconception. Removing this fallacy, the fault, by self knowledge and self effort is the basic goal of the religion. The karma that has been attached to it since the dawn of the time will be eliminated by this knowledge. The soul becomes a liberated soul once all karma has been cleared out. Those types of karma, however, they're broadly classified into 8 categories. So we don't have this time to discuss. So what we're talking about basically that that this is a living entity and it is not the creator. So these arguments against the God does not apply. We'll see it. Now let's discuss about this concept of God in yoga. Here we are talking about yoga means Patanjali yoga, the classical yoga, specifically based on the Yoga Sutra. Now in yoga we find a really unique and sophisticated understanding of God. And this is the first time I think in the literature we find the definition of God. Mostly if you study philosophy and theology, you will not find a specific definition of God. It's very, very rare. They will talk about, oh, this is not God, this is not matter, this is not the Purusha, this is the Prakriti. But what does Purusha means, or what does this God mean in the sense? It is very rare, you will not find. But in the Yoga Sutra, this is the first time Patanjali defines God. He gives a definition of God, and we'll discuss about it. So the first sutra he talks about, where this comes, the Patanjali says, Ishvara pranidhanadva. So Ishvara pranidhana. What should I do to reach God? That we should do the pranidhana. So concentration having an object, is the sampragyata samadhi, can also be attained through focusing on God. So if you want to know about God, you should focus on God itself. So he talks about the meditation. So you should contemplate on God. And what is that medium? This is the pranavaha. Then it says, then there is another sutra, is tasya vachakaha pranavaha. So what is it? The medium of reaching the God? Not the pranava, the onkara. You chant, you contemplate on the onkara, and it will automatically arise that there is something which is supersensuous. You will experience it. You don't do this study, the theology and the philosophy, you experience it. So it is not a matter of thinking, logical thinking, rather it is a matter of contemplation on the God itself. Then he defines, this is a very, very important line. What is God? He says, Klesha karma vipaka shar aparamrishtha purusha visheshaishvaraha. So who is the God? He says, Klesha karma vipaka ashayar aparamrishtha purusha vishesha ishvaraha. So God is a particular purusha vishesha, particular, and unique consciousness, purusha, among consciousnesses, purushas, untouched by the affliction. Klesha, affliction is klesha. Then karma, then vipaka, karmic vipaka. What are the vipaka? Vyasa says that this is the phala. Phala of the karma is the vipaka. Karmic fruits and long-term karmic predispositions. So that are characteristic of all other sentient being associated with Purushas. So this is a really, really fantastic idea or the concept, the definition of Ishvara, which is very rare in the other texts. So again, I repeat, very, very important. The klesha karma vipaka shayara aparamrishtaha purusha vishesha ishvaraha. Then, okay, this is the definition of God. Then what happens? He says, what is the importance of God then? Tatra niratisayam sarvagya bijam. So it says, Tatra, there, in God itself, niratisayam, remains. What remains? Sarvagya Bijam, Sarvagya. He is omniscient knower. All the knowledge, everything, whatever we are trying to seek, trying to attain, everything is upon God. In God, the pinnacle of omniscience has been attained. Then what is the nature of God? Then he says, Purveshamapi Guruhu Kalena Anapacheddat. So it is the Guru of all the Gurus. God is the exemplar Guru, teacher of all preceding teachers, in as much as God is not limited by time. Then this important sutra says, so what is the medium? How can I attain God? What is the medium? What is the way out? This says, Tasya vachaka pranavaha. The verbal expression of God is the sacred syllable, pranava, the onkara. Then tajapatadartha bhavanam, repetition of it, the sacred syllable omkara, and meditation on the object of expression, namely God, should be practiced in order to achieve samadhi, because we know the ultimate goal of yoga is the nirvija samadhi, or which is in another word called the asampragyata samadhi. Now, this another sutra says, this tatta pratyekeka chetana adhigamopyayan paraya bhavascha. Then when concentration has been properly cultivated, there is a going over into one's pure consciousness and the disappearance of the obstacles as well. So here we find that here the God is not the preserver. God is not the creator of this universe. He says the Purusha and Prakriti, when we get liberation, when we attain Kaivalya, we become also Purusha. So we can equate, we can come to the level of the Purusha. But only difference is that it is the Purusha was not ever entangled with any kind of karma or any kind of kleshas. This is klesha karma vipaka, so it is beyond the kleshas. But those liberated souls are already in kleshas. Then they get liberated. But Ishvara is always eternal without any kleshas, any karma, anything. And it is from the very eternity. It remains from the very eternity. Now let's discuss about this concept. What is unique about this concept and how we can argue for the existence of God, which is not the creator of the God, the creator of the universe. So here, James Larson gave a very, very fantastic understanding, and he gave his own interpretation, combining the Christian theology and other religions and the yoga concept. So I just take up from them and I try to build up from them. So unique understanding of God in yoga and Jaina. But we will basically now we are focusing on the Patanjali yoga. So in yoga we find that God is an act of depersonalization. So depersonalization, it is not the personal God. D is the opposite. Person, deperson. So depersonalization of the God. So for Patanjali, the notion of God is never personal. He's not a person. He's not a human being, or he is not an entity who has created this universe. Then we find an act of de-anthropomorphism. So for yoga, there is no notion of God as creator. There is no notion of God on analogy with a human agent that acts in creating or fashioning. That we create something. Someone has created this table, so it doesn't. So in the similar fashion, we don't find God as the creator of this universe itself. Then an act of demytholization or mytholization. For yoga, the notion of God cannot be reduced to any of the conventional religions of the world. This is a fantastic idea, you see. Still, now there have been different conceptions of God, but this is that you cannot reduce to any of the conventional religions of the God. The description of the God, it does not go with it. It gives its new and unique understanding of God, which is different. And it doesn't go to that, okay, the God created this Big Bang theory or this Adam and Eve theory. It doesn't go to. It simply says you, okay, this is the characteristics of the God, and the medium of this is the pranavaha, you do it and you attain this. Then the last one, the fourth important is an act of deconceptualization. So it gives a different concept. So alternatively, one might put the matter simply in the following way. The notion of God has very little to do with philosophical conceptualization. So it says, by doing philosophy, you cannot know or you cannot attain God itself. This is the yogic view, where the Vedanta will say the completely opposite thing. No? Aham Brahmasmi, you will get it. But the yogi concept is basically on the practice, on the experiential knowledge. So you don't go for this theoretical knowledge, rather you go for this experiential knowledge. So you do these things, do these practices, and then realize yourself what God is, what are the characteristics of God, and all the related questions regarding the concept of God. Now let's discuss about, let's unpack these concepts. An act of depersonalization, what does it mean? Asmita or ahamkara, there's a typo, in the Sankhya, the concept of the self or ego is a fundamental affliction, klesha, that needs to be conquered. It goes without saying that each of us has a personal identity, or even a number of identities that enable us to go about our daily lives, or what C.G. Jung termed our ego masks. However, the idea of a person or an ego is fundamentally faulty, problematic, because who and what we really are, that is our deeper selves, is considerably more expansive and nuanced than what our ordinary understanding of person would allow. When we concept of person to the concept of God, we just add to our confusion concerning both our grasp of God's essence and our own true selves. In terms of the traditional yoga philosophy, the idea is that by extrapolating our faulty and gravely erroneous understanding of the person unto God, we miss the mark on what God might actually be. We can't possibly understand God's nature or essence by using our conception of the personal or ego. According to yoga, God is never personal since he is untouched by the afflictions of ego, klesha karma vipaka. Then what is this de-anthropomorphism? There is the world in time. Although there are times of dissolution, pralaya and mahapralaya, when the world returns to its primordial state, and subsequent times of manifestation, anadi, according to yoga, there is no beginning to it, because there is the Purusha and the Prakriti. This is a thing of numerous universes, that is, to use a modern term, endless, in the sense that a series of big bangs occur after periods of entropy burnouts. But the point is that the species is scarcely fundamental to the overall scheme of things, and yoga certainly does not hold that the universe was designed so that humans could rule it. Any humanist philosophy, that is one that emphasizes the importance of the human being, whether it be religious or secular, is similar to the idea of the ego or person. In the vast hierarchies of sentient beings, the human species is but one more minor species. Let's talk about this demytholization. The complete cosmology of yoga is explained in Sutra 3.24, where it says, starting with the 7 cosmic realms, the Satyaloka, for example, and ending with the lowest hells, in Yoga Sutra 2.26, the many historic religious traditions, including the Buddha, Buddhist, Jain, this is the Vaishnava, these are typos, and so forth, are explored in addition to the locations of Videhas and Prakritilayas and the liberated yogis. The great Abrahamic religions, particularly Jewish, Christian, and Islamic customs, might also be simply added. Yoga, however, holds that none of these have anything to do with God or Ishvara. God cannot be contained by any temporal framework. Hence, God is completely outside of all such networks. Regarding this notion of demythologization, of course, yoga would concur with Sankara and the Advaitins, and for that matter with Meister Eckhart as well. God, according to philosophy of yoga, transcends all cultural and religious traditions. He is outside or beyond the cosmic egg, as it were. It is almost as if one must become an atheist in terms of conventional religion if one is properly to understand the notion of the divine. Then the last one is the deconceptualization. Vyasa closes his discussion on Yoga Sutra 1.2, which says, Atha yoganushasanam yogas chitta vritti nirodha. Then the sutra, tada drashtu sarupe avasthanam vritti sharupyam itaratra. So the second sutra is yogas chitta vritti nirodha. What is yoga? He says yogis achieve that they refer to as the supreme realization, prasankhana, in which they learn to understand the distinction between the world of nature, sattva, which is also existent, and pure immutable consciousness, in which all objects or contents are reflected. Even that realization after becoming indifferent to that differentiation, they arrive to a state when only a few lingering predispositions, the samskaras, are left. This samadhi is also referred to as seedless, nirvija, and without any object, asampragnata. Therein, absolutely nothing is known. In other words, one advances beyond all conceptualization when they realize the existence of eternal excellence, which is a state of quiescent co-presence of Chitti Shakti, pure awareness or perfect Chittva, otherwise known as the perfect Chitta Shattva, recognizing the difference between full natural consciousness and pure conscious world. This Chitti Shakti comes in the last sutra, in the last pada. This is Purushartha Sunyanam Gunanam Pratiprashabha Kaivalyam Swarupa Pratishtha Chitti Shakti Riti. So there comes this Chitti Shakti concept. So what is our take on this discussion of this concept of God and this sophisticated nuance understanding? So what is this yoga God? A person cannot be God. God did not make anything. God is undoubtedly neither a he or nor a she. Religion doesn't have control over God. Philosophy is incapable of understanding God. As for yoga, God is a distinct or singular awareness, Purusha, among consciousnesses, unaffected by the sufferings, karmic tendencies, karmic fruits, and long-term karmic predispositions that are typically of all other sentient beings linked with Purushas. So here this sutra is Klesha Karma Vipaka Shara Paramishta Purusha Vishesha Ishvaraha. This is that sutra. So yoga holds that God cannot be a creator in any meaningful sense or be personal in any comprehensible sense. If God is not affected by suffering, deeds, and results of actions, and the consequent traces and predispositions, God is neither a thing nor an entity. And as consciousness has no content or objects, it can only pretend to be something that is not. God can only be distinguished by what consciousness, untouched by suffering, deeds, outcomes, and dispositions, appears not to be. What doesn't seem to be in such a situation can only be perfect sattva, where rajas and tamas are present but do not function. A non-intentional experience of the presence of pure consciousness as being distinct from itself is made possible by the context of perfect chitta shattva, which pure consciousness appears not to be. Therefore, God is the eternal excellence of the existence of perfect sattva and objectless consciousness. Therefore, God for yoga functions as an intriguing ontological argument as well as a regulative concept. A regulative notion, God always has a body apart from pure consciousness, which is flawless sattva. Even at the peak of pinnacle of what is knowable, God as the seed of the omniscient, Sarvagya Bijam, endures even after the entirety of the manifest universe melts in the Mahapralaya because God is the eternal excellence that must always be. An intriguing ontological argument for God in yoga is that it can only be discerned as the eternal presence in the reflective discernment of perfect sattva or pure contentless consciousness, than that which nothing greater can be conceived. In this way, Advaita Vedanta theology and the theology of Buddhist philosophy are reconciled by God for yoga. Chitta Shatta disappears as an ontological principle in the Vedanta, living just Brahman in the end. According to Buddhist philosophy, the ultimate reality is Chitta or temporal being. There is no actual transcendence beyond Chitta. Finally, as the Vyasabhasha has plainly said, our feeble attempt at a religious conversation hits the limit that common language cannot carry to us. Yeah, thank you. स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय नमः. Thank you.
A very meaningful and knowledgeful lecture by Mr. Sushant Bhattacharya. And now I'm inviting the audience to ask their questions. So if you have any question, you can raise your hand and we can discuss over the topic. Now it's open for discussion. Yeah, you may ask your questions. So what is your good name? Dr. Rajan. Okay, you can ask. Yes, in front of the dais. From Cuttack. So you can come on the dais and ask your question. Yeah.
First of all, thanks to Mehta sir that he is handling such a wonderful fund and organizing such a wonderful lecture series. I'm really obliged for him. And I also thank Professor Anand Mishra ji that he is constantly engaging in such kind of wonderful lecture series. Now coming to the lecture, first of all, I would like to congratulate the speaker. He has wonderfully elaborated on the idea of theism and atheism. However, I have certain problem, and that problem lies in the fact that when we read the Yoga Sutra, I would like to locate the idea of yoga in the Yoga Sutra. So let me briefly give you the idea of theism and atheism. Theism, I am simply saying believing, and atheism, non-believing. So if we take this Western context in this and locate it in the Yoga Sutra, then I do not find that there is any place in the Yoga Sutra where it has been argued that God does not exist. So atheism does not apply to Yoga Sutra at one place. Now the second is, if we apply the conventional Indian notion Ved Nindako Shastra in the atheism sense, then it also does not apply to the Yoga Sutra, because it also agreed to the fact that it follows the Vedic testimony. Now, if even the speaker is considering that he is taking a non-creator God, and in that sense he is arguing for the atheism, then I think that the idea of creator has been imposed from the Western context, the Abrahamic religion, which is problematic, because Yoga Sutra has not been arguing for the very fact. So based on this thing, I would like to say that the idea of atheism does not apply at all. And if anyone is trying to locate it in the yoga context, it is either an ideological input or somehow has been influenced by the Western notion or Abrahamic religion. Now, second question, which is to my Guruji, A.K. Rai and Professor Anand Mishra, that I read the commentary of Deep Gokhale, and in that I found that in the Tattva Sharadi, Vachaspati Mishra ji has argued for the fact that God is created and destroyed. And similarly, in the Yoga Vartika, Vigyan Bhikshu has also accepted that God is Paramatma. That means that he is the creator and destroyer. But when we listened the lecture, I didn't find that speaker tried to refute any position. Maybe he did not have the information. But if he is really interested to bring the idea of atheism in the Indian context, he would have to refute these two commentaries as well. So these are the two things I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions. And I don't know whether you are from the very beginning of the talk. We started with basically how a sophisticated idea of the concept of God we can derive from the Yoga Sutra. That was our main draw. So it was not this, what do you say, this Hinduism or the theological understanding of the West. And as far as for your kind information, I have studied 21 Sanskrit commentaries, Tika, Tippani, under my guru, Dr. Venkataraman Bhatta, on the Yoga Sutra. So yeah, thanks that I'm well aware of the fact what you are seeing. But I don't know whether you know the thing that the Sutra tradition is a different tradition. There is always scope for interpretation. So what you are saying, this Vachashvati or the Raja Bhoja, even there is a recent commentary, not recent, there's a Hariharananda Aranna Bhashwati. I don't know whether you have heard about it. Did you heard about it? Did you hear about the Bhashwati? So you don't know this text. Yeah, they're very, very important. Even he has a commentary on, in Bengali, it's called Patanjala Yoga Darshana. So what I'm trying to understand yoga philosophy from the sutra itself. There is the commentaries, obviously, but this theism, atheism, at the very beginning, I started that what I mean by theism in the arguments for and against the existence of God. So from that perspective, I'm taking this yogi concept into dialogue. Okay. So this is not this one way or another, what you think. And the second is whether it is theism or atheism. Yes, it is theism, but that's the purpose of the talk. That it is theism, absolutely, I said, but there is not this conventional theism. The Ishvara as the creator, the preserver, or the destroyer. Ishvara is only the Tatra Niratisayam Sarvagya Vijam in the sutras. You see? So the Ishvara is understood as the repository of all knowledge. But he's not saying that he is the creator. So why is he doing that? If you get the time, just ponder over the text and study the commentaries and the sutra itself. Independent sutras you should study with the commentaries. So this Vachaspati Mishra, if Vachaspati Mishra says that this Ishvara is the Paramatmana, no, it doesn't mean Vijnana Bhikshu. Vijnana Bhikshu, the purpose of Vijnana Bhikshu is to harmonize all Hindu philosophy and the theologians. If you get the time, please read that book, Unifying Hinduism by Andrew Nicholson. You will find there's a whole big Bhikshu's concept and what was his mind. Even he says the Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta and Yoga concept, the Jivan Mukti, even it is possible in the Yoga Sutra. If you find in this Vigana Bhikshu, he says the Jivan Mukti is also possible. But if you read even the commentaries, you will not find this concept in the Jivan Mukti, nowhere in the Yoga Sutra. Because Sutra tradition is very difficult. You know, in the Sutra definition, there is Vishwato Mukham. In the Sutra, there is a Vishwato Mukham, Sharavat. So even in the Sutra concept. So Vijnana Bhikshu says, no, this is very, the yoga accepts this concept of this Advaita Vedanta, Jivan Mukti and the Vidya Mukti. But there is no, only in the Vyasa, in the Sutra, Tata Klesha Karmana Virittihi, there only Vyasa points out, Jivan Neva Vidvan Vimukta Bhavati, Jivan Neva, while he is in his body, the Vidvan, the Jnani, the Yogi, Vimukta Bhavati, he gets liberated. So he doesn't talk about this Jivan Mukti concept, but we can mix it up. So what he was trying to say, okay, this is like, why? We should not, I'm not here to argue for Vachashpati Mishra, to Vijnana Bhikshu. I'm here to how we can better understand the sutra itself with the aid, with the help of the commentaries. So don't do these mistakes that, okay, Vachashpati Mishra says, so we have to know. This is the job of Vachashpati to give arguments for his views, not our. And if you want to defend Bhattacharya, you should give your arguments. You are getting my point, what I'm saying? Yes. So now the theism. Yeah.
I talked about all this, brother.
Whether you are asking for the Buddhism or atheism. If you are asking for the atheism, then that is problematic. I will say this.
I first described at the very beginning what do I mean by theism and what do I mean by atheism. So I think you didn't get it. That's why maybe the problem. I said that theism in the traditional, the conventional, the God with the omni attributes I talked. But rather that this is a divinity or something superior, the Purusha Vishesha, special work that we can adopt. Okay, I think there is this one. Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, good evening to you all. Sir, after going through the lecture, sir, I have a few points to raise. Sir, there are in a Patanjali Yoga Sutra and the yoga of in a Uma Swami's Tattvar Sutra. One basic technical point I found that dharana comes later on in Tattvar Sutra. But in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, there is a yam, niyam, and then there is a dharana. And in a practical sense also, if anyone is performing yoga, he filled with many desires that he want good health, and nowadays wanted a political mileage also. So dharana comes first, according to a practical approach. So I want this question to be taken into consideration by you also and all of us who are present here. So in practical approach, dharana comes first, but why but in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, it comes after yam, niyam, and afterwards? First question. My first observation is this. And second thing, once what Jainism has told about universe and creation, Stephen Hawking has also said same thing. But modern theism has come into the center of conflict, and nobody is agree with the non-believers and atheists. So why? But on the other side, these these things which were established earlier in Jainism, the Jain community is prospering day by day, and very much prosperous. And but the modern atheists are facing difficulties in establishing their own grounds, even though we have a scientific rich cultures and many of other parameters on which the established concepts of atheist can be measured. But why atheists are not being able to establish their concepts? So my question is basically on my practical observation. So I think you please clarify this. Thank you.
Yeah, so the second question of why they are prospering, this is a cultural question. So I don't think we can answer that question. But yeah, the first question is Uma Shwati. What he talks about this dharana. See, the thing is, what we understood in the yoga, especially in the commentary of text, that this Ashtanga yoga, these 8 limbs, yama, niyama, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. These 8 limbs. So many scholars, or even in the commentaries you find, they are in the opinion that they think that it doesn't mean that you have to yama leads to niyama, niyama leads to pranayama. There is no such thing. It can be up and down, or you can start from somewhere, because there is this, even in the Vyasa Bhasa, there is, they said, the mukta kushala. There are different types of yogis also. So according to their credibility characteristics, there are 2 types of jivas. There is Ishvara Koti and the Jiva Koti. Ishvara Koti is a direct part of the portions of the God itself, this avatara. And the Jiva Kotis are these normal human beings, which are in the karma, klesha, karma, vipaka. We are in this. So these are 2 types of yogis. So it depends on whether it will start from the yama or niyama, but this is a basically stage by stage. In philosophy, you have to at least categorize something in a systematic way. So you should take up this 8 Ashtanga, this 8 limb yogas as a systematic delineations of the yogic. But it is not a serial that first you finish this yama, niyama. So when someone goes into the level of dharana, so does he not follow this yama and niyama? Obviously, sir. Shatya, Astya, Brahmacharya, doesn't he follow? He obviously follows. So it's not that you one finish the what limb or the one part, the one stage, and then you go to the second. So it's a kind of admixture. So you take up some, then take up some. So it depends on your development of your sadhana. And the second is Umashwati. Okay, how we can talk about this? See, not only Umashwati, if you find this Yoga Bindu by Hemachandra. Yoga Bindu is by Hemachandra. And then Yoga Drishti Samuchaya, Yoga, then this is Haribhadra Shudi. So Haribhadra Shudi, yeah. So Haribhadra Shudi has 4 books, full-length books on yoga. Yoga Samuchaya, Yoga Bindu. So Haribhadra Shuri, what he does, he does the same thing like the Vijnana Bhikshu. He takes up all this Patanjala yoga, he accepts the Patanjala yoga and try to give a harmonious understanding of the yoga itself. So how we can do this? We cannot do this because Jaina is a different tradition. They have a different precept to follow. They have different practices to follow. Whereas in yoga, they have a different standpoint. The philosophical differences are there. Because if you follow Jaina, you cannot attend the Kaivalya and the yoga Kaivalya. No. So you have to get this Jaina ultimate thing of the Godhead, the Tirthankaras. So this is a different philosophical school, different philosophical approach, different attitude to the sadhana. So it depends on these things. But if you say, okay, we can take up something, yes, there are some fundamental similarities, like the samadhi. In the Buddhist, they take up the samadhi. Even in the yoga, you will find, even Advaita Vedanta, you find the nirvikalpaka samadhi. So they pick up the samadhis. But when you try to understand what does samadhi mean or what is the purpose or the nature of samadhi, there you find the differences. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. No, we are not doing this comparative study by sutra one by one. What we are trying to say that Jainism has a concept of divinity, yoga itself has a concept of divinity, and how nuanced, how different they are from the other theological understandings of concept. This is our purpose. Yeah. I think he can answer your question. Yeah. Yeah.
So how it is possible that the sadhak who is reaching that condition point? So that would be purely related to that sutras.
No.
So this is, I think, it's a technical problem.
Sadhakas are different. You are not getting the point. This is a Jaina sadhaka. He is a yoga sadhaka. So how can you say that this thing doesn't apply to Jaina sadhaka? Jaina sadhaka doesn't apply to yoga. So he is a student of BHU, and you're talking, okay, so he is a student of JNU. So let's compare with this. How? How is it possible? Isn't it? They have a different system, no? Yeah.
About basic Theism, so there is Sambar as last, but about Sambar, that is after the that is Sambar. So Sambar is also a kind of yoga in the as long as he does not practice Sambar, that is like yoga into the yoga, so he cannot proceed to first lecture and afterward both. One. And if chair allows, I would like to answer second question raised by Divakar Mourya-ji. He has if chair allows me.
Yeah, please go on. Please carry on. Yeah.
He has asked theists and atheists. So the Jains are atheists, as you understand, and others are theists who accept God creator as a creator. And atheists are more wealthy and prosperous. He has asked, and to did not answer him. What Jain practices is like God's likeness. Jains are giving emphasis on the achar, that is conduct, and as long conduct, good conduct is practiced, I think it lies not fitting. Life is meaningless. This way, more importantly, सत्य उपराई सबको ऊपर आचार. Children Sahib also say that achar is conduct is more important in life. If you are priest and you are jumping mala every time and you are performing acts like in being, etc. So your jumping is not meaningful. Your Buddhism is not meaningful. This way, Jains believe on karma theory, and karma theory is very important theory. No philosophy denies the karma theory, and the karma theory is important. That is why Jains are more believable and they believe on karmic theory. Because of this karmic theory, they are wealthy and prosperous.
Thank you.
So I think we have answers of all questions. So I'm very thankful to Mr. Sushant Bhattacharya for his logic and counter logic on the God existence and other points. There is very important one shloka. Apte no chinna doshena sarvagena gameshina bhavitavyam niyogen nanyatha aptata bhavet. So what is the definition of God? It is written by Acharya Samat Bhadra in Devagam Stotra. Other name of the book is Aptamimansa. So now I would like to request our chairman, Professor A.K. Rai sir, who is the head of department, ex-head of department of the philosophy and religion department. So there is a humble request to Professor Rai sir to say a few words over this lecture and our other queries. Respected Rai sir.
Respected Professor Mukul Raj Mehta ji, Chairman, BSJSF, B.H.U. Varanasi, our Head of Department, Professor Anand Mishra, Member Secretary Anand K. Jain, scholars coming from different faculties, students, and friends. I am deeply honored that the organizers have given me an opportunity to preside over this function. I am not prepared for that. It was a Kaat Tali Anyay. Just I am coming and I am asked to preside over. I am not prepared for that what the talk will be going on and what would be just. Still, I will try to what I have heard from the speaker. And his lecture was very extensive, covering Theism in Western tradition as well as in the Indian tradition, and very extensive. I will not talk much, but I will say only 2 points. One is that, and it is known to Bhattacharya ji, but since I am chairman, I have to say. I have also to say. So, the meaning of theism is very different in Western and Indian context. The difference is between creator and the created. In the Semitic religion is very much deeply rooted. So many traditions is very much deep, which is not here, whether they are monoism, monotheism, or just the theism like the yoga. Because even self is not God, individual self is not God regarding the Yoga Sutra, but he belongs to the society of the God, not the society of the others. So there is a similarity between God and man, or God and those who have the self. So there is a similarity between this one. This is the one point. So when we are talking about, we must be clear. The theism is very much different. Janma Dasyata, even in the Vedanta Sutra, when we are talking, or other tradition we are talking, then even that, the self, the human self is non-different from the Brahman. There is some identity between them. So there is a always emphasis on the giving priority to identity rather than the differences. They are also identifying, but they are giving priority to much differences. So that is the basic difference. Though we are using the term the theism also. The second I will say, I am not going to controversy. You see, it becomes clear after 1,000 years that Jainism or Yoga Sutra or the Vedanta Sutra are forming a different traditions, and one tradition is not going to modified by the other tradition, by the doctrines of the other tradition. It is a very much clear. So the problem arises how to make a synthesis between them. That was the problem before the seers or before the scholars. How can we make the synthesis between them? And in this direction, whether it is a theism or whether it is a non-theism, you may call Jainism non-theism, Mimamsa non-theism, you may call, but there is a effort has been made to synthesize them. How can we synthesize them? That was the method. Now you see, in the Western tradition, when you come theism, not to believe in God is a sin. If you are not believing in God, it is a sin. It is not a sin in Indian tradition. You see the Tulsidas, when he is coming, he is saying there are 9 types of bhakti, 9 types of devotion. And 6th devotion is that one when you are only moral one. So out of the 9 tradition, if one is there, then he is dear to God. So he is not going to modify his tradition. He is not going to leave the God. But what he is saying, even those who are morals, they are the devotee of the B.H.U. You see, so not believing in the God is not a sin like the Western tradition or ancient tradition. When we are talking about, we are still talking about the ancient times, that this is the theism and this is the, and the same, I thought that it is an innovation of the Tulsidas. First I thought that it is an innovation. He is the first time he has just propounded this type of doctrine. But I found that as comes the Puran, those who are observing the moral tendencies, they are really the real devotee of the B.H.U. So from the theistic point of view, from the viewpoint of Ramanuja or theistic point of view, even you are moral, you are the devotee, B.H.U. is kind to you. And for the Jaina point of view, even you are observing the Anubrata or the Mahabratas, whether you are believing in God or not, that is immaterial. So there is a synthesis, there is understanding. How can we develop, though they believe in B.H.U. and you do not believe in that, but there is a moral ground on which both agree and both try to synthesize, because we are living in the society and you cannot force Jainism to modify your tradition. You have no power. Similarly, Jainism has no power to decide about the tradition of the Ramanuja. So that will be not go. That will not. The second point is though it is not directly connected. So Askand Purana also, the same point of view is held by Skand Puran as it was propounded by Tulsidas. So it is not the innovation of the Tulsidas. It was already found in the Purana because they have to deal with the society. Those who are discussing in philosophy, this is a yoga, this is a yoga, that is will not go. But when you are going in the society, a Jaina is meeting the Hindu is meeting the, so how to synthesize between them? So that is why you see in the Vishnu Sahasranam, Sarvagamana Machara Prasvam Parikalpate Achara. The meaning is this, that whatever when you are worshipping the God, what is the first coming? It is the moral virtues. They are the outcome of observing the. Suppose you are worshipping the God. You say that just you go and observe the moral doctrines. That is not possible. Hinduism says that that is not possible. Devotion is also a means. Achara prabhu dharma, dharma se prabhu achyuta. है ना, सर्वागमानाम आचार प्रथम परिकल्पते आचार प्रभु धर्म धर्म से प्रभु अच्युत. The dharma is performed in the presence of achar, in the good conduct. And who is the Lord of this? It is the Achyut. It is the Lord Krishna. So the necessity of worshipping in Hinduism is that if you are worshipping, you will be Chipram Bhavat Dharma Apasasot Santi Nigachati. Bhagavad Gita. He becomes suddenly, very soon he becomes the Dharmatma. Dharmatma means he is going to observe the moral. So you should not, so from the Hindu point of view, we should not say that you should not worship the God. Though it is not profitable from the viewpoint of Jainism. But they have tried to synthesize, even though your tradition is different and my tradition is different, you are theist and I am not theist. But there is a point, that is the moral ground where we are meeting. And if Jainas are doing the moral work, they are the devotee of the Vishnu from the Hindu point of view. That is what I said about the Ambedkar. I have wrote Ambedkar, that Ambedkar, it says, though Ambedkar is saying that he is not Hindu. But from the Hindu point of view, we are not denying. Since you are upholding the moral principles, how Vishnu is very kind to you. Vishnu is, so Buddha is accepted as the incarnation of the God. So in this way, we have tried to, because we have to try to synthesize. Culture cannot go without synthesis. And from the cultural point of view, we have to synthesize different philosophies also. Though there are differences, we are not denying. Thank you all.
In a very summarized and concrete way, Professor A.K. Rai sir presented his views over the lecture. And now it's time to say a few words or vote of thanks. So I'm very thankful to all of you, especially Chairman sir, who gave his very important time today, and Professor Anand Mishra sir, Head of Department of Philosophy and Religion Department. We are also thankful to you, because all the time we need your time and attention. So you are available for the fund and for the department always. Professor Mukul Raj Mehta sir, who is the chairman of Bhagwan Shreyansnath Jain Studies Fund. I'm thankful as a member secretary of the fund to you especially, and we have so many distinguished scholars from the field of philosophy, those who are also in our department, like Professor S.P. Pandey sir, Professor S.C. Dubey sir, Dr. B.C. Bagre sir, Dr. Rahul sir, Dr. Kalpana ma'am, and Dr. Rajendra, and especially Professor Pradyum Shah sir, who has arrived, Professor R.K. Jha sir, sorry sir. So we are all thankful to all of you, and for this lecture to listen this carefully. And we are regularly doing so many works under the fund. So I am thankful to all of you. Please cooperate in the future too. Thank you all. So you have high tea. So enjoy the high tea all.